Hey guys, it's History Behind the Warrior and welcome back to another Mortal Kombat video. Now today I will be bringing a new series to the channel, that's being Mortal Kombat Bloodlines. You see, over the course of the last few weeks, I've been covering a plethora of different characters across the board, dawning from the Age of Time up to the current canon, and it got me thinking of the importance of heritage and legacy in Mortal Kombat. So in the Bloodline series, I'll be diving into a character's ancestry, where do they derive from, who taught them, and how did they evolve into what they are now. And of course, finally, I will be discussing the main differences from the old timeline as well as the new one. So in today's video, with how Aftermath finished, I wanted to talk about the Kong bloodline and the importance of their name and skill to the series. So for us to do this, I've made a somewhat family tree of sorts that will break down and allow me to go from generation to generation, explaining how one influenced the other, as well as the series and universe itself. Now the Kong household is in fact a very privileged one, basking in the wealth and comfort of China for many generations. They were able to enjoy the finer pleasures of life, but this wasn't for everyone, as there was one son of the family, Kung Lao, who wanted to do more with himself than indulge in this lifestyle. Being aware of the Mortal Kombat tournament, he would join the White Lotus Society, an ancient organization that was designed to be Earthrealm's last defense. Under their teachings and ways, he would become the finest warrior they ever taught, and in turn, he would display his skills at a Mortal Kombat tournament, defeating the current Outworld champion Shang Tsung, and of course in turn become the new tournament champion. His victory narrowly saved Earthrealm from being merged with Outworld, as Outworld had won 9 consecutive tournaments, but his reign would not last very long, as he would fall in the following tournament to the Shogun Prince Goro. Now although gone, Kung Lao's death inspired many within Earthrealm, teaching them that they could be more than what they were, and that they didn't need to be limited by their restraints. It is never too late to fight back, so his legacy would go on and inspire many. Of course, his death truly raised the establishment of the Kong household, and they would become infamously known for his sacrifice. Every generation since then attempted to live up to his name, with even one son of the family being named after him. This of course being the young and current Kung Lao that we saw in the original continuity. Now unlike his predecessor, this Kung Lao certainly did his best to live up to his ancestors' moniker, training at the White Lotus Society with his rival, a Shaolin orphan by the name of Liu Kang. Because of his strength and determination, he was originally offered the opportunity to represent the White Lotus in the first game, but he instead decided to decline. Understandably aware of what happened to his ancestor, he instead wanted what he deemed his equal Liu Kang to represent them, but he did not always remain in this passive role. Due to the events of Mortal Kombat 2, he was forced to step out the shadows and participate due to the stakes at hand. Although he did seemingly perish in the third game, his loss was not in vain, as it gave Liu the motivation to beat Shao Kahn once again. Now during the events of Deadly Alliance, we learned that Kung Lao apparently had faked his death, and the main reason as to why he had resurfaced was due to Liu's demise at the hands of the Deadly Alliance. Realizing how dangerous the duo could be, he would take this time to in fact learn under Bo Rai Cho, Liu Kang's master and mentor at the White Lotus Society. So he knew the drunken master very well, but sadly his efforts would be for nothing, as he would perish at their hand only to be resurrected in deception to just fall once again in the following game during the Battle of Armageddon. Now before we jump into the next generation of the Kong bloodline, we do get a reboot, so bear with me as this is where the family tree gets kind of complicated. So when the series is rebooted, there are a number of different factors in the universe that do change. Whilst the heritage and legend of the great Kung Lao remains untouched, it is in fact the modern day iteration of Kung Lao who is very different. Instead of being calm, collected and determined, he's brash and rather immature. This iteration of Lao was jealous, self-absorbed and rather hot-headed, believing that his name alone should determine his skill. And whilst extremely talented, he feels like he's being overshadowed by Liu Kang's talents, and thus whilst friends with Liu, can come across as rather bitter. Now in this timeline and continuity, unlike that of the original and how stories are now told, we get to see more of a relationship build between Liu and Kung Lao, so they do seem like brothers, with one understandably wanting to one-up the other. Unlike the original continuity, Lao didn't just train at the White Lotus Society, but he also trained under Bo Rai Cho, something he didn't do in the original continuity up until Deadly Alliance. Another parallel is that unlike his original counterpart, Lao's demise takes place in the second tournament and is a somewhat true death of the character, as again in the original continuity, his demise happens in MK3, and this is one he does Fate. Now from here, Kung Lao would be resurrected as a revenant of Quan Chi, and does serve under him for many years, effectively writing him out of the picture. But what befalls of the Kung household and lineage? Well, it all comes crushing down. You see, when Lao died, grief and dismay struck the family, as they considered him the best of them. They blamed Raiden for his incompetence, shunning the god, and cutting all ties to him and the White Lotus. In the years between Lao's demise and the start of MKX, the Kung bloodline lost its fortune, and it was reduced to a shell of its former self, with many of them taking to the streets. One of these individuals was by the name of Kung Jin. Now Jin has a very interesting tale that does tie him into Lao as well as the great Kung Lao. Jin grew up his entire life idolizing Lao and his skills, believing that he may in fact be the reincarnation of their great ancestor, and that he would once again bring glory to their bloodline. But when Lao was murdered, that perception was completely shattered into a million pieces. With no home and money, Jin became a street smart thief, taking small jobs and doing his best to remain out of the public gaze. But this wouldn't last forever, as he had inadvertently played a part in the Cyberlinkoi's fall. After this, he would attempt to retrieve a long lost relic of the Kung household, that being a jaded statue. But after being caught by Raiden, the god apologizes and expresses his dismay for the tragedy that had befallen the family, believing that there is still good in Kung Jin. He in turn offers him the opportunity to join the White Lotus Society. Whilst hesitant, as Jin was unsure if they would accept him for being homosexual, Raiden reassures him that he would be protected. So from here, Jin would later join the next generation of Earthrealm defenders to stand on the front lines and protect it from all incoming threats, much like Lao. Now whilst happy to protect his home, he secretly always had the desire in his mind to find the possessed Lao and hopefully purge him of his revenant corruption. But sadly, this is something he would falter in, as Lao would permanently remain in this state. Now Jin would be present during the fall of Melina and defeat of Shinnok, preventing Earthrealm from falling into the hands of the fallen Elder God. And although victorious in this battle, Jin would seemingly disappear, returning back to the White Lotus Society, so he is absent during Mortal Kombat 11, and truth be told, we do not really know what happens to him or his bloodline. Not that it really matters by the end of Mortal Kombat 11. Once the universe is reset in Aftermath, with Liu Kang now forging the Hourglass of Time, he rewrites the realms back into his vision and brings us all the way back to the past, one that we haven't seen before. So once again, I apologize for confusing you with all the different timeline, canons and continuities, but this ending takes place before the universe is rebooted, before the events of the first timeline, and even the events of the very first tournament. Set in a timeline where Mortal Kombat is clearly a very new concept and idea, but yet to be Great Kung Lao would be approached by Fire God Liu Kang, telling him of the tournament now set in motion and how he would have to start training. So the Great Kung Lao's story, legacy and name is one that has defined multiple different generations of martial artists, as well as the very bloodline itself. It goes to show the impact that one person can have on an entire generation, and how that greatness can echo from person to person. He was an individual that could inspire hope in many, and whilst he may have fallen from grace before his time, what he stood for never died. And that's the importance of the Great Kung Lao's legacy. No matter how short it was one that brought great honor and power to an already strong bloodline, and even when they seemingly lost their way, they were never truly gone. We can only guess and assume what comes next, especially with what Liu's ending sets up. But until then, that will be it for this video. I sincerely hope you all have enjoyed this. Consider it a somewhat pilot episode of an idea I came up with some time ago. After covering multiple different characters in the series, I really wanted to make something that ties those episodes and characters together. I really wanted to show how knit the series can be, as legacy and history is a really important factor of the series. There's so much to learn, and even I myself find it interesting to talk about. So if you enjoy this, and this episode is well received, I will happily put together another one, as honestly, I'd love to explore the dynamic and dysfunctional relationship between the Sons of Argus. It deals with betrayal, legacy, fate, and jealousy. There's so much going on there, and although it's not touched on, I would like to expand on the foundation that does exist. But again, I'll be putting that idea in your hand. This won't be replacing any other other series on the channel, but it's something I'd like to do outside of what you normally see. So again, if you enjoy it, I'll be more than happy to provide this form of content for you. So yeah guys, that wraps up everything I did wish to say here. So if possible, before this video wraps up, let's try getting it to about 500 likes, and also please do tick that bell, as will keep you up to date with all my content coming out. So now, as always guys, please comment, like, subscribe, and share this video with everyone you know. Please take care, and I'll see you all next time.